Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the show. It's probably going to be a lengthy one as well, because this stuff is, to do any explanation, it takes a little bit of talking. And we can zip through it real quick, and you can hit the backup button back and forth and give me a lot of minutes that way watching, but you may just end up frustrated and angry about stuff because you're not really getting what you need. Let me tell you a little quick story. Here we have what was used yesterday, up to yesterday. That's the previous hard drive, the 310, the Crucial 310. You know, we had it installed on the main board, the motherboard. Can't say mother. The birthing person board. And every time we'd have to reinstall the system, which was quite often, we'd have to break into the system to do it. And that would require me taking the glass sides off the case and pulling the video card. And I don't like doing that because every time you pull a video card, you risk maybe breaking the PCIe latch right there that keeps it, held in at the end of that 16-bit slot. And I just don't like doing it. And I sprung a leak somewhere, and I've here on the desk, I've got one of the fittings that I guess was just torqued just enough when the rubber gasket started leaking, it dripped. So that was a mess. So I decided to take it out from under the big mono heat shield that's there and put it on this that I had so I could load Linux on a different system. Now that may or may not be a relevant thing to you because the installer does a good job as long as there's not but one hard drive in there. I have 3 operating systems and the RAID has 3 drives, that's 6 drives. It got inconvenient and it got kind of a pain in the backside. So the installer does work. It works as it's intended and pretty straightforward, provided you don't have 6 hard drives in your computer. So we got that working as of yesterday, rebuilt the system, got her all back because I can't seem to make the network viewable, browsable. I can connect to it, and we're going to do that. We're going to demonstrate that. And we went through lots of setups in the different Linux versions, and it just was not comfortable. So let's look at this right here. This is our little equivalent to what? To Explorer, and this, of course, is terminal, equivalent to command prompt. You see we're all white here, so we're already logged in as super user or sudo. Remember that super user do is how I remember it. I'm a little dyslexic, but super user do and then su in your password. So we're logged in as root. And we have, obviously, if we go down to network, we are seeing the network. The problem isn't on this end. The problem is on the Windows end. The Windows will not cooperate with the Linux, or the Linux will not cooperate with the Windows. And I've tried everything, and we'll look at a configuration file on the SAMBA, which is what we use for SMB, or what is it, server messaging something, I don't know. The SMB is what they use for doing this file connection. Well, I can connect to it. I've got that solved, but I just can't browse it. I can browse one way, so I can see them. I guess I'm like Cartman. Respect my authority. So my authority. So I got it coming from this end. I can't get done what I need to do. Can't work on but the connection is a little bit awkward. And right now, if we look at this computer that says CDTS14, this one and the 11, which is not showing up, I guess I got the lid closed on it. They're on a different work group, and yet I can still see them and connect to them and do anything I want. They can't see me regardless if I'm on the same work group or not, so that doesn't really help. I don't really understand that. But we got our network working. But I want to show you this. If we go to Beast, which is this machine, we got Beast docs, printers, SSA, and test, and these all have this little icon, the little Wi-Fi on it. That's to tell you that they are in fact on the network. But now if I double click it, I can get into it. We have to set some parameters, some permissions manually through this guy over here, I find. But now if we go back one, we have the icon has changed to having this little Wi-Fi guy. That tells you that it is on the network available, and now it is mounted. And if we go down to the bottom, we see we got a little Minier ball for a little muzzle loader. We see that guy, test on the Beast, is mounted. It's local, right? So we can also do SSA mount it, and we'll see the same thing. Watch it this time when we go down there. You'll see it shows up. So it does mount, right? So I go ahead and undo SSA. We don't need that for right now, but I do want to show you something else that is worthy, I think, to know, let me go ahead and unmount that, is if we go back to the root, let's go home and back up. This is the root. We're going to click this. This is our root directory. Here's home where we just were. In the previous video, we mounted to media because media mounts very well. It's easy to auto mount. The system kept trying to do that for whatever reason through a good bit of effort, kept wanting to put it on mount anyway. But I don't like it on mount because it gives us that long, UUID number, and it's huge. And when we would look at it, it would put it up on the desktop, and it would look like a stack of drives for the RAID. So I like that aspect of it, and it seemed to be very natural. But anytime I have to come over to the terminal to do a permission change or something like that, chmod, chown, something like that, it didn't want to cooperate because I have that very big long number. So that part I didn't like. So I did move it from media, where we built the RAID, mounted it, to mount. Now the cool thing about this is if we look at our little guy here, this is the drive we built the RAID on. Now I did rename it. Linux renamed it to MD127 again. I don't know why. But when I changed out the actual hard drive, not the 3 hard drives on the RAID, and put the new operating system on that new drive, believe it or not, the RAID showed up. And I could mount it. It did fine, so I like that aspect of it. I can't guarantee it's supposed to do that, but it did. Completely new build on a different physical NVMe, and the existing RAID that we had configured before, the MD0, which the system named it MD127, it showed up automatically. So that was good. Well, anyway, I've moved it over. I've reconfigured it, moved it over to mount. Now, you could probably go in there and cut it up and just change your paths and do that. But now it's mounted on mount to the directory SSA. And it did that before. But the difference is when I go over to this, I moved it from media, built the new RAID again, even though it was there. I could probably change it in the MD ADM file, config file, or whatever, move it. But I just went ahead and rebuilt it, moved it over. There was nothing on it. We have now media to mount, and they're just right up, both of those right off the root. If you put it here, it thinks because media is for removable media, it gives it that long UUID. If I put it under mount, I get to keep the SSA. But now one thing you'll notice though, if I come down here, SSA is not showing up as an option that I can mount by clicking it, like these other hard drives in here or the machine. If I tell it to mount, it mounts, and I get my little minier ball. So it mounts, but I don't really get to mount the SSA if I put it in off of the root on mount. It's where it should go, but it doesn't. It's not as easy to deal with. But if I go down to now network, because I've got it in a network, I can see it there. And if I go to Beast, I can see Beast docs and these SSA. I can see it here. If, again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but if I double click it, if I come out, you just notice that I did mount SSA, so I have full access to it. It just doesn't look like our multi-disk. But what if I wanted to try something? You want to try an experiment? I've never done this before. Let's go to SSA on the Beast, right? We've mounted it. Let's see if we can do a property change and change the icon, because this might be worth if you're brand new to this, might be fun to know. I'm gonna come up here and do multi, see if I get something. There we go, drive multi-disk. Let me see if I can change its representation on the desktop. Select it, and it did. So now, for all intents and purposes, I get the benefit. If I look at the properties, it's still going to be SSA, for solid state array, not, it's not going to be that long reference number for the UUID. So I think that's convenient. Well, how do we get one of these? Well, the first time, when you just have your Virgin installed, the best way I think to put the SAMBA or the SMB, you could come down, get your software manager and type it in, right? And I've already got it installed, so you see I've got a green check mark. You can do it that way. But if you just come to any unsuspecting file like documents here, back up. If I take documents and I want to share it, or downloads if I want to share it, either which one, or music, anything like that. If you come up here and you say sharing option, and if you don't have it done, if you don't have it already installed, let's do music. When we do a sharing option, it's going to give you some opportunities to do it. And when you say, okay, I want to share this folder, music, and it's on the beast, we can do a comment down here. Okay, we can allow this, do this, check these things, guest access, because it's just music, it's not going to do anything, and we just want to be able to read the files. If we create the share, if we don't have SAMBA already installed, the Linux Mint is kindly will tell you to complete this, we need to install SAMBA. You can click it there and it will go and do it for you, so it's really easy to do it that way as well. We can add the permission. Now you see this type of share, you see what it is. It's a share, but it's not network, which I'm not really sure who all is going to be able to see this if it's not the network itself, but it does install it. We've got our little guys here. We've got SAMBA installed now. So what would we need to do to it? Let me move this over to the side. We go to our terminal and we're logged in super user. We can just do nano.conf. This is our SAMBA configuration file. It pulls up. Now, some of the things that they did trying to get this thing to display, to browse, I could not get it to browse no matter what I've done for an extended period of time, but I can get it to connect, and that's what I need. That's what I need. So that's good enough for government work as far as I'm concerned. But one of the things that I did is I worked with the two Windows clients, the computers, 4 other machines in the house are Windows. And so I did this. Client minimum protocol is SMB2. Client maximum protocol is SMB 3.11 or 1.1. Well, we don't do periods here, so it's got to be that little underscore looking guy. So we did that. And that limits security-wise, it keeps you from having SAMBA or SMB1, which is apparently unsecure, like in the old Windows 7 and before that. So we do have the accommodation. We know that we can talk the same language that the Windows 10 and 11 do. In fact, what I did is I thought, well, it could be that protocol. It's certainly not the work group because we can change that. That's one of the easiest things we can fix, and it wasn't browsing. So let's go to each of the computers, turn their firewalls off if we have a problem with porting on either end of it. And since it looked like I could get out but couldn't come in, I thought, well, perhaps it is Windows trying to be discreet and hiding other stuff on the network. And Windows has a browsing problem anyway. It doesn't like play with other people. So we got that working. We put the protocols on there and we seem to be working. We go back to our screen here. We see we have Workgroup. Right now, Workgroup, as you see it, we come back to our network. Let me show you something that may make you scratch your head. The Beast and the 11, which I've got the top closed. I guess I could open it back up, but I don't want to get in front of this camera setup I have over here. It and this one currently are on Workgroup. These other machines, this one and this one, are on a completely different Workgroup, and yet I can see them and connect to them. Anything on those machines I can go ahead and connect to, and they're on different Workgroups. So Workgroup isn't the problem. Now, one of the other things that I did, let me see if I can't come down here on this side. On the global, I did add, like I said, I did add the 2 clients, the minimum, maximum, the lockout 1, SMB1, because I thought maybe it might be having some sort of a problem, but the firewalls, taking those down, didn't help it. And I went ahead and manually changed my server string to what I wanted it name, and then I added, because it's going to default off the system, and you can actually go into the system control and rename your host name. But I just went ahead and named it right here in the file. And the netbios name, I added netbios, which is not standard. Now, if we go on down to the bottom, I can show you what a share looks like, a test share looks like. We have our printer shares. That's set up. These 2 are set up in the default file. And here we have our test, our little test directory that we're looking for. Starts out, I put a comment in it. It's a test directory. That's not necessary. Browsable, yes. So it does show up, I guess, over here. The path, we've talked about that as I have it set up mount and SSA and then test. We can certainly see that over here. The network test, where is test? Back it up one. I need you to go ahead and back it up. Okay. Need you to go. So there's the beast. So we're just off of the beast. We click into it and there's our SSA. And because these are shares, they don't look the tree route, right? They don't look like the tree. I go back to home, back it up one more time, hit the root, hit mount. Now we see the structure of it. Mount, SSA, test. And that's what this says right over here on this. It is mount, SSA, and test. Now I have valid users because I don't want anybody creeping in on me. I have Dell, Bob, that was my test user, and test.net. We'll look at that on the user because we're going to talk about the privileges. This stuff doesn't work just out of the box. And writable, yes, I want to be able to write to it. And of course, read only, no. And these really are two of the, should say the same thing, because if something is not read only, it should be writable. And writable should mean it's not read only. So anyway, and guest, I don't want just guest accounts use it. There's a lot of other stuff we can do that. So that's set up. And I think that's what we need. But as you can see from my demonstration, the work group didn't have a darn thing. Didn't have a darn thing to do with whether that we could browse or not. So we got that set up. Let's go into users, because you might have to set a user up. If we go down into our display down here, and we click on the Linux Mint, we can go ahead and search for user, and we have our user and group. If you've not made a user and group before, we'll show you that. All right, here we have my two users. I got my test guy here. This is me. Oh, by the way, if you drink coffee and you're in an area that I serve, why don't you buy a bag of coffee instead of trying to beg $5 off you like a lot of people do? Why don't you buy a bag of coffee? And you enjoy coffee. It's small roasted. It would be roasted just for you. So that's me. And it says I am in the following groups: ADM, CD-ROM, DIP, these other locations, test, net, and users. Right? If you see that, put it back up. Those are my groups. I have now, and you can change your picture here. I got Bobcat. I know I don't have much of an imagination. So there's Bobcat. I also made him an administrator. He has no password set, but he's open right now. And Bob is his group he's in. He's in no password login because guess what? There's no password set. Test.net, sudo, and SAMBA share. Now, if we want to add another, just want to see how we would add a user, we'll add them as a standard, and we'll call them Cat for Kathy, all right? A log. All right, we're going to add Cat A log. We can change her little picture if you want to see how to do this. It's just a fun thing. We can make her, do we have some kind of a, well, let's say she's got short-term memory, so we'll make her the goldfish that, or the clownfish that forgets. Hey, appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, if you will, subscribe to the channel, either the YouTube or the Rumble channel, which this appears in. And if you can, check the notification bell or settings to make sure that you get notified when new videos are posted. Appreciate it. A log. All right, we're going to add Cat A log. We can change her little picture if you want to see how to do this. It's just a fun thing. We can make her, do we have some kind of a, well, let's say she's got short-term memory, so we'll make her the goldfish that, or the clownfish that forgets. Now, if we want to add a group, we have our list of groups that are here. And what we can do is we can add a new group, and let's call it the cat group, or call it cats. All right, doesn't like cats because we got a capital letter in here. I have a bad habit of putting capital letters in there. So that's a group we call cats. Now, we want to go back to the user, Miss Kathy. I believe we can modify her and add her to the cats group. So going back to our smb.conf, our SAMBA config, we would just come in here if we wanted to have Kathy to have access to our group. We would just add her to the valid users, and we'd come out here. What do we call her on her login? We call her Cat A log. Okay, I think that's what we just named her. It's been a split second. Maybe I'm the clownfish who has a short-term memory. Ooh, look, escape. All All right, so now we've added her. We just do it. And you can add test_net is a group. These others are individuals. And that's going to take us to talking about chown. Let's save this. Let's go Control O. Get on our terminal, do Control O, write the file, Control X, we're done. Now, chown is, we're going to change ownership of something. So let's go over to our SSA and let's make another file that won't have the permissions that we'll have to go in here and set. So we're going to have to open this as root. All right, let's make a new folder. New test. Okay, now we see it shows up. Lo and behold, it shows up. If we look to do the sharing, all right, we can come over here and change its permissions. Share this folder. Aha, there we've got our beautiful demonstration. Do you see that now? It says SAMBA needs to be installed, an appropriate firewall. Here's the thing. We've already got SAMBA installed. We've already got a firewall installed. It still wants to try to do this because it's, I guess we're logged in as root. So let's log out as root and see if it will then let us get into this. Sharing options. See, didn't give us the same notation this time, did it? So we're going to go ahead and share. We go ahead and give it a comment. Hi. Allow others. Boom, boom. Create to share. Add the permissions. It says could not change the permissions of new folder test. What? What? Are we frustrated yet? Is this? It just told us to do it. Why won't it let it do it? We, Dell, are in the administrators group. Why can't we do this? Because we're not root. Now, if I put Dell in the root group, if we add Dell to the root group, then he should be able to do that. You might want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. But let's go over to our terminal. So where do we put this? We know if we look at this, we can see that we're off of mount SSA and test. So if I come over to my terminal and I type chown, I can change the owner and the group that has access to it. But before we get to that, let's look to see who has ownership and access to this. I'm going to bet it's going to be root and root. So we're going to do get, a command called get FACL for file. Oops, I'm not typing. Get FACL, and I believe that stands for get file access control list. And we're just going to do a -A and the path that we're looking for. And this is then MNT, right? Mount SSA new test. That's our folder, correct? We see it right there. There's our path. Root, mount, SSA, new test right there. Let's see who has access to this folder. Isn't that a handy thing? It says the file is mount here at test, owner, root, group, root. The user permission is for the read, write, and execute. The group is just read and execute. Other is read and execute. How can we gain access to this file? Because right now we are logged in as Dell, not root, right? So if I do the new test, if I try to add a new file, see it's not here. Create a new document. These are grayed out because I'm not root, right? Is this helping at all? Because I'm a very practical guy, and people can show you in 5 minutes what these little octal numbers are, how we have them as 3 different bits. But it doesn't necessarily translate to when you need them. All right, let's talk about this octal just a little bit. On the file permissions, when we've seen them in the past, we see the very first thing over here on the left-hand side as you look at the file permission. Well, in your case in the screen, it's going to be on this side. It's either a D or not a D. If it's a D, it's a directory. It's not a file. So it'll be a D or not a D. And we can show you an example of that in a second, remind you of it. The next three bits, each one of them is individually settable, is for read and write and execute. So it's 3 bits. Well, in the old days, Digital Equipment Corporation is one of them who used octal system instead of a hex system. Octal meaning it had 3 bits. Binary means it's just 1 bit, right? Up or down. 0, 1. So and when we count in our binary numbers, it's 0 or 1, 0 or 2, 0 or 4, 0 or 8. And so we get numbers. One bit is 1. If we have the second bit, it's 2. Put the 2 together, it's 3, because 1 and 2 makes 3. If we have the third bit, it becomes just 4. And if we had the third bit, and the first bit, it becomes 5. So that's how we get our numbers, right? And there's 3 sets of those. Now let's go back and look at that real quick. So here we have our group. And it's this particular command has given us something we desperately need to know if we're trying to debug why something doesn't flipping work. Mount SSA new test. The owner is root, which I am not. I'm Dell. I'm not root. I'm not in the group root. So group root is there. And of course the user has full access. The group and the others only have read and execute. So we can't make a new file because that would be writing to it. So how do we change that? Well, let's do a ch own. And I remember this one only because it doesn't really make a word, but ch own is change ownership in my mind. We want to give it the numbers to change not the numbers to change it to, but the groups to change it to, right? Because we want to modify the permissions. That's with our octal numbers. We just said we're going to go ahead and do that in a second anyway, but let's do the ownership first. Let's take it from root. And the first name is going to be the owner. We could leave it as owner. We're going to make it Dell because, hey, it's my computer. I'm the only one that's going to be logged into it. I'm the only one with the keys to the house. And we do a colon, and we're going to give it, what did we call it? What did we call the test share? Was that a group that we used? Let's go look real quick. All right, we have Bob in test_net. That's the one we have in our SMB config. So we're going to go ahead and so I'm going to change ownership of this directory. And what I need to do is not real hard. We have root and root as group and owner. So I'm going to change that to Dell as the owner. And the group, I'm going to call it what? Test_net. Right? And now we've got to give it the directory that we're working on, which is /mnt. If I can type, this should work if I didn't get anything wrong. If we didn't get an error, let's go see if we can now create a file in new test. And see we're no longer grayed out. So I can create a new folder, I can create a new document. Let's do a new document, empty document. Let's say, I did it. Let's open it up with other application, text editor. Woohoo! Woohoo! All right, we got it. File. Let's save that. Now we ought to be able to exit this file. And we see if we double click it, we see we actually wrote into that file. So we did it. We took ownership and we changed who could use it. Now the group I use, if I were to log in as Bob, because he's a member of that group, we ought to be able to then use it. So that's part of our file sharing thing. So now we know how to give access to our files and we know where they're at. Let's go look just briefly at how we're going to get to them, since when we go to network, we don't see from the other computers. Let me pop that up. Is the screen on? Yes, our screen's on. Let's go ahead and turn on our laptop. There and this is about as crude as you can get, but it works. We've got a camera facing a second screen on the laptop, and when we see here, right, if we do a network, we don't see the beast. In fact, because it's Microsoft, we don't see all the machines. If I go to what is closed, it often forgets another one. So one of the things what I want to do is I'm going to go over, I can't walk away from the microphone. I'm going to go over to the system and just map a hard drive. I'm going to map to the new test. Well, let's look at the file we just looked at. Let's back up. Like I say, I need you to go on ahead and back it up. We're in new test, and we know where new test is on the network. We know where new test is on the actual system. So new test is going to be over here. off of SSA. And inside of new test, we have that file. So remember it, because I've already forgotten what I called it. I did it. That's the file name. All right, let me rename that while I'm thinking about it so that I don't have to deal with the spaces. Let's rename to just now, something without space. I can do the space. I actually had to do that, but it's just easier just to not have to deal with them right now. So we have just now is the name of the file, and I want to know who has permissions on this file. If we do properties, permissions, what does it tell us? I don't know why it does this just now. The permissions cannot be determined. Well, that's frustrating as all get out if I'm trying to figure out why I can't get to it. So let's go back over to our terminal. New test mount SSA. Now I bet you work. All right, now it works. Now if we do ls, we see just one file. It's just now. So what we want to do is we want to use ch. I tell you what. Let's look to see what the permissions are. And we'll do that with, get back on it. Why is my mouse giving me trouble? ls-lb. See, who's it tell us right there? It tells us that right now, the owner would be Dell, right? Because it says it's Dell right there, has only read-write privileges. Not read-write, there's no execute privilege. And you see that first digit there, that first position is a not AD. If it's not AD, what is it? It's a file. If it's not AD, it's a file. So we have read write but no execute. So we also have read write no execute for the group. We also have now just read only for the guest. We're not going to allow because we've got it fixed that we're not going to allow it. And we see right here that Dell and Dell are the owner and the group. Now, if we wanted to give access to this the same way we did before up here in root, we would use ch own, and we would just change this to the group. And we can do it recursively so that it does everything further in. But let's just go ahead and do a demonstration on changing. Sorry about that. Let me get a drink real quick. All right. If we want to change the permission, because I want to demonstrate that to you, we know what they are. We know we don't have full access for either the group or the owner. So let's go ahead and fix that. And this is where our little octal numbers come in. We would do ch mod, because we want to change the permissions. Why is it not chper or something? Change permission. Ch mod. We're going to give the numbers that we want to change them to. Remember, if we want to set all 3 bits so that we have each of those read, write, and execute, we need a 7, right? Because 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 4 is 7. So we're going to set all those bits. We'll make that a 7. 7. Whoop, come on. 7. And the next one, we want the group to do the same. So 7, 7. But let's say we want to keep just read permission. Well, that would be 4, right? Because it's the leftmost. So we should, when we hit this and give it the directory that we're in, this new test, and the file, what do we call the file? We got to give the file name is just now. Hit this. No complaint. Now if we go back up and we look at LSLB, it shows us that just now is a file. And we see that Dell and Dell, we haven't changed the ownership, but we see that we have full permission to do it, and a guest can only read it just like we wanted it to. So those are two big commands that you might want to know. And hey, you know, I'm learning too, still going at it. So take you some notes if you want to. Now to go ahead and add the user to so that we can use the SMB, we need to just come down here to our terminal logged in as root. It would be user add, and we want to add the user Bob to a group, so we want to do a -G, and we call that what? Testnet. That was our group that we had, and his name was Bob. Bob already exists. That's because we've already done this So we've got that. Now we got to add the password. So we do SMB PASSWD, and we need to do a dash add A, and Bob should ask us for his password. New SMB password. Let's give it a tricky one. PASSWORD. Give it to him again. There we go. Now Bob has a SAMBA account. So then we've got a RAID working. We got it where we don't have to look at the ugly UUID. We've got it mounting when we need to mount it. We have it doing our shares. Microsoft and Linux are not playing all that great together with the browsing. I haven't figured that out, but I can at least leave it running. Leave the Linux running so that I don't have to use the Microsoft Windows. Because think about that. Microsoft, when I would boot as Windows 10, I couldn't read their Microsoft storage spaces. I couldn't read it. But I changed the whole flipping drive out, and Linux could still read the RAID. Now I did change it and move it around, but anyway, this is a little weird if you're not used to this yet. Hope you don't mind my little baby showing you some of these little commands to use and talk really slow. But this should be a long enough video for one day. Appreciate you watching. Let's cut it off here.